Monday morning for Pilates Yoga Fusion. So we're gonna do the kind of customary thing in terms of starting laying down. And if you, like me, like to start with a little bit of an elevation so that you open up some of these little muscles that if you're a side sleeper and you sleep curled up in a ball and you want to do that with a little support under your back, you can do that. If you have a little bit of low back funkiness, I'll show you another option that sometimes works for that once we get down. So if you want, you can grab a blanket or you can grab a couple of yoga blocks to create a little lift, or you can just lie down on the floor, it'll be fine. So what I do is I take a blanket, make sure that it's long enough that it'll cover most of my spine and support my head, and fold it so that it's not much more than about 7 inches or so wide. It can be more narrow than that. And then when I lie down, with the blanket, you can go pretty low down your back. It can go down all the way, and you can go all the way to the end, but I generally go to about the end of the rib cage. But with a block, if you're using that, you want that right under the shoulder blades. So you'll have that up much higher. And then if you put your legs in this position, you can kind of curl your tailbone in just a little bit and resettle your pelvis. This is a great position if you have really tight hip flexors and need a little bit more of a sense that your low back is going to relax and the hip flexors are going to relax, so your pelvis is not being pulled so far forward. So sometimes the issue with tight hip flexors is that the femur bone is actually pulled forward of the socket, and then that can create hip pain and knee pain and low back pain. So this might be a really great position if that's something that you is unique to your situation, where you want to release the hip flexors. For me, it's always about shoulder, but if for you it's always about hip, then this might be a really good choice. And if your legs don't want to stay steady just up in the air, you can try letting the knees fall into each other. For me, that creates more tension, so my preference is just to hold. Find that spot where my legs don't have to work too hard to hold steady. All right, so then once you get your body arranged, whichever version you're doing, whether you're going to release hip flexors or shoulders or both, or you're just lying down, all of it works. Then we're going to take a few moments to pay attention to the breath. And we're going to try to do sub-alternating, so you're going to breathe down nice and deep, just fill up as much as you can with breath without a strain. And then from time to time, if not every breath, but like maybe every third breath or fourth breath, try to create a little bit of constriction around the abdominal muscles and force the rib cage to get a little more active in breathing, so that we can release some of the tension maybe in between the ribs. This just gets a little more movement going there, and then when you're breathing later with your abdominal muscles contracted, you'll have some space there to take up. Let your mind get settled in the present moment and forget about all the stuff you're going to do later. Let go of stuff in your mind that you can't control right now. And anything maybe that's tugging on you from the past. stay for about 3 more breaths here. I'm gonna take this blanket out from underneath me by just rolling to the side and slipping it out. If you have anything that involves, you know, like blocks or whatever, I think you can do the same idea, but whatever you need to do to get whatever's under you out from under you. And then I'm gonna stretch my legs out because they've been bent this whole time and just give myself a chance to reach. So we're gonna do a little stretch down the side of the body. So it's it's called banana pose in some circles, but you can decide what to call it. But in any case, you're gonna go from center to just bending to one side. So we're not rolling onto our side. We're not lifting one hip off the ground. Shoulders still on the ground, hips still on the ground. We're just curving over to one side. Now, if your arms are comfortable reaching overhead, that's fine. But if they're not, you can bend at the elbow, bring the elbows down a little bit, make it more of a cactus-y shape. We're mostly interested in what's happening on the outer hip and the side of the waist and the spine itself. You can, if it feels like you would like a little bit more intensity along the outer hip, and be mindful that you may not need more, but if you want more, you can cross the outer hip leg over the inner hip leg. So in my case, I moved to the right, so my left side is stretching, so I could cross my left ankle over my right ankle and let that hip fall. And then I get a little bit more sensation around my IT band. The question always for me when it comes to connective tissue is, do I need more sensation or am I doing just fine? So you have to answer that for yourself. Sometimes I find myself getting too pushy, so it's good to back off a bit. So let's pause here for a couple more breaths. And I like the sensation kind of as you breathe. Can you feel how this long side kind of feels a little different about the breath than this little inside? Take one more big breath there. We'll just come on back to the center. And notice if any change has occurred. So it really doesn't take very much for me to feel a difference. And if I were to sit and measure the difference, it wouldn't be that big a deal. But the sense of my body is that my left side is now longer than my right side, right? So there's a little sense that there's been a shift there. So I'm gonna do these little windshield wiper moves in between because I find it nice for releasing any pressure around the sacrum. You could also bring the knees into your chest or just lie still, whichever you prefer. And then we're going to do the other side. So I'm going to stretch back out. As long as I'm not getting any feedback down my spinal column that says not yet, then I'm going to go ahead and bend this direction, opposite way. And again, you could cross the ankle. You could question your motives like I do, or just pause. So we're just going to let ourselves feel this side is longer and this side is a little bit more curled in. And then breathe. Again, so what we're doing with this pose is we're kind of being a little bit passive, but we're trying to release this really big hip flexor that's in deeper, along with any tension from the abdominals or from the ribs, and then also to give the spine a chance to do some of its movements. So we release any tension along the back. So then we have access to all of this for our movement patterns that are coming up. So we're going to stay here for a couple, like 3 and 4 more breaths. And again, notice how the breath is different on one lung versus the other. And then take a big breath and come on back to the center. And then just pausing in the middle for a moment and notice how things went. Are you now asymmetrical or more symmetrical than before? So you can give yourself a little rinse. All right, so we're going to do both some work for that big hip flexor muscle, and we're also going to start to kind of wake up the abdominal muscles as well. So we're going to start in this constructive rest position where the feet are parallel to each other-ish and far enough away from the hips that the legs relax. So we can feel that little descent of the femur bone into the hip socket, or at least there's no tilting or arching of the low back, right? So the pelvis isn't tilting forward. We're going to do one leg at a time, and we're going to move this leg through 3 planes of motion. So the first plane of motion is going to be sliding the leg out and then bringing the knee straight in, okay? And then we'll slide the leg back out. We're going to do that 3 times, and then we're going to shift to the next plane of motion, which is going to be taking this knee to the outside. So we're going to bring it out towards the same side elbow, and then we'll take it back, and we'll do that 3 times. And then the last movement is going to be coming across. So we're going to actually bring the knee across the body. A little bit of a twist will happen, okay? But we'll take that knee to the opposite side elbow. So the leg is going to do this movement pattern that both strengthens and releases the hip flexor. And then we're going to do this little bit of curling with the torso. So we're going to press the head back into the hands. We're going to curl up. So we're not trying to get really high up off the floor. We really just want to feel this upper band of the abdominal muscles kicking in. And we're going to press the head back so that the neck muscles are stable and we're not using the neck to try to force ourselves up, okay? So those are the movement patterns. So first we're going to lift. Now, if your mat isn't particularly slippery, you can lift your leg just a little bit off the floor, or you can turn diagonally so that you can slip your foot up and down the surface of your floor. Now, if you've got a wooden floor, that's not going to be very slippery unless you're wearing socks. But if you have a carpeted floor, generally it's a little bit more slick. So you can decide how to do this. But if you do decide to lift your leg, you don't have to lift it very high. We're really just trying to get a straight leg. So we're going to take, the hands are behind the head, we're going to press the head back, we're going to let that leg just slide all the way out, and then stretch through the leg, toes pointing up, and you could even spread those toes out. Then we're going to curl up and bring that knee straight in, and then go back down and stretch that leg, toes pointing up, curl up, knees come straight in. And again, keep your neck nice and stable, reach out. This is the last one on this plane of movement. Curling straight in. So now that leg is going to go to the outside. Same action with the upper body for now. Curling in, taking the leg towards that outer elbow. Stretch it out, toes pointing up. Stretch through the foot even. Curling in. Taking that leg out again straight, toes pointing up, and then bringing it to the outside elbow. So that's the last of this plane of movement. Now we're going to do the crossways plane of movement, and this becomes a twist. So we'll bring the leg across and lift the elbow as well. Elbow coming towards that leg. Stretch that leg out one more time on this side. Beautiful. Now, stretch this leg all the way out, give it that last little stretch, and then we're just going to put it back where it came from. And just for a moment, you could let go of your head if you like. Feel the hip here versus the hip on the other side. And just notice if there's a difference. There may not be. The muscles that we're talking about are very deep muscles. And the nerves that supply those muscles are mostly about movement. A lot of the sympathetic nervous system is interested in these muscles because they help us run from danger or stand and fight. But we don't have a lot of those sensory nerves that return information to the brain. but there may be a slight difference, so you might perceive something. And for me, it just feels like this leg bone is a little deeper than this leg bone, but that may or may not be true. I might be making that all up inside my brain. So we're going to do the other side one way or the other. So bring your hands behind your head. Again, we're going to press the head into the hands. I'm going to lift my toes, and if I can, slide that leg out. If not, just lift it slightly as you go. So the toes are straight up, and I reach all the way through the side of my waist, out through that leg, and then curling up and bringing the knee in, and then stretching that leg out, giving it a good long reach, curling in, getting all that air out of there so you can get those abdominal muscles well snuggled, so the head and neck don't have to do that work because your abs are. All right, so as we stretch the leg out here, we're going to go to the outside plane. So we're bringing that knee to this outside elbow. Same curl though. Stretch, toes spread out. Curl in. Stretch, toes spread out. Curl in. Then we're going to do this crosswise. So we're coming across and adding a little twist to the upper body movement. Stretch out. Coming across. Stretch out. Coming across. We got one more to go, I think. And then we're going to let that leg stretch all the way out. You can let go with your head, and then we're just going to put it right back where it came from. So we've got both hips resting, and then just notice if there's a sense of symmetry. There may be no change. Just notice what is. Quite often for me, any tugging or pulling that my pelvis was getting is gone now, and I've got a little better sense that my pelvis is balanced. I have a tendency for my low back to arch more than it probably should, but in any case, it's back to neutral now. So we're going to do the single straight leg stretch, which sort of mimics this, but now we're going to ask the ab stabilizers to help us with this work. So this is kind of the baseline, and if you want to continue doing this, you can. To do the single straight leg stretch, we're going to curl up. Theoretically, you're going to let go of your head and use your arms, but you are welcome to hold on, and I'll show you a couple of options there. So then we're going to float the legs. So now we're asking this hip flexor to do a ton more work, and we're asking all of the abdominals to curl in and stabilize it. So we're hugging in through the sides of the waist. We're going to stretch one leg out and curl in. Now you can reach towards the ankle. You can keep your hands behind your head, curl in a little bit more. Or you can do one hand towards the outside and one hand behind your head. If that helps you remember to keep your neck a little more stable and do this little extra curl from the abdominals, okay? So that's up to you. But just adding that straight leg and then, oh, that little extra bit of curl. And if this is too much, go back to the work we were doing a second ago. Two more sets. Good. Bring both knees in. You can let your head relax for a moment. You can even give yourself a little back massage. So we're going to take the legs straight up. Now we're going to lower the legs down. Now you can come back to the curled up position, resting your head in your hands, or you can take the head to the floor and then place the hands down a little closer to the hips so that you've got a little bit more stability for your low back. The choice may be largely one of anatomy. If your legs are a little bit longer, they have a lot more torque and they have a greater chance of causing some trouble for your low back. So you decide what's correct and right for you. Glue the legs together, toes spread apart. We're going to lower the legs down for 4, 3, 2, 1. And against the pull of the hip flexors, we're going to hug in the sides of the waist, 2, 1, and then come on back up, okay? So lowering down 4, 3, 2, 1, hug in, 3, 2, 1, come on back. Lower down 4, 3, 2, 1, hug in, 3, 2, 1, coming back. Coming down 4, 3, 2, 1, hugging in, 3, 2, 1, coming back. 2 more. Coming down, 4, 3, 2, 1, hugging in. 3, 2, 1, coming on back. And then last time coming down, 4, 3, 2, 1, hugging in. 3, 2, 1, coming back. And then we're going to let go, put the feet back down. And again, it might be nice to do a little bit of a release. So letting the feet come out wide and letting one knee go into a little internal rotation, and then the other can be nice. Or again, you can bring the legs all the way in. Give yourself a little back rub against the floor. All right, yogis. So we're going to do one more piece of work here, and that involves a little bit more of a twist. So we're going to take the legs in again, similar to the straight leg stretch, except now we're going to curl up off the floor. And we want to do almost like 3 stages of this. So we're going to curl, and then we're going to engage a little deeper through the side waist, and then one more time, just as much as we can get, and then come down. And again, we're keeping the neck nice and stable so that we're asking the obliques largely, along with all of their friends, to do these twists, okay? So again, you can leave your legs on the ground, or you can float one up and then the other out. This leg could rest on the floor. We're going to curl up 1, 2, 3, back to the center, both knees in. Extend that other leg out, curl 1, 2, 3, coming back. Extend out through that leg, 1, 2, 3, coming back. Good. Be mindful of not pushing on your neck. 1, 2, 3, coming back. 1, 2, 3, coming back. Good. Continue on. 1, 2, 3, doing your rhythm. We're going to do 2 more here. Last set for me. So once you're back in the center, you can release your legs. Do whatever feels nice. We're essentially just going to flip ourselves over like a little pancake. So I'm going to scooch all the way over to one side and then roll right onto the belly. So while we're here, we'll get a little warmer in the back muscles as well. So once you're in this position, place your hands underneath your shoulders so that if you drew a line from the top of the shoulder, it would, the fingers would be a little bit in front of it. We're going to start there. Reach through the legs, and just like we were doing with the hip flexor moves in the last couple of things, we are extending out through the legs. But this time the feet are flat, the tops of the feet are flat. But same idea, we're going to reach through the legs nice and firm, press the tops of the feet into the floor, and then use the back muscles to lift. So don't push with the arms, but do use your back. And only go as high as your low back says is okay. So we're going to do 3 more like that. Lift, use the legs, reaching out, coming back down. Lifting using the legs, and coming back. Good, last one like that. Excellent, so then we're going to slide the hands back so they're closer to chest muscle height or a little lower. Spread the palms out, put the fingers on, the palms on the floor, tips of the fingers if you can. Lift, draw the elbows wider, pull the collarbones a little bit more, coming down. Work the legs, so we're trying to broaden the chest. Good, coming down, we got 2 more like that. Lift, broaden the chest. Last one. Beautiful. So now we're going to add a little bit of a lift with the legs. And the lift with the legs doesn't have to be particularly high. For a lot of people, lifting the legs too high creates problems for the sacrum. So we're going to just slide the hands back so that now the palm doesn't really want to stay on the floor necessarily, but we can keep the tips of the fingers there. We'll lift. As you lift, you might be able to anchor the palms, lengthen through the legs, pull the collarbones a little wider. Coming on down, back to fingertips. Lifting, anchoring, and coming on down. Good, we got 2 more. Lifting, kind of broaden the collarbones and the chest. Sometimes I have to try to convince my glutes it's okay to let go in between. Coming on down. All right, we're gonna release the arms. Ooh. And then we're gonna come back to, pardon me, what is essentially a wide-kneed child's pose. So we've got the knees out kind of wide. We're gonna take the right arm, slip it underneath the left arm so we've got a little bit of a twist. Now if your weight goes too heavy into your head, you can send the hips closer to child's pose. If the child's pose is problematic for your knees, you can send yourself further forward. Your spare arm could be a pillow to help kind of keep the weight shifting, or you can wrap it behind your back, or I like to use it just as a kind of way to get a little more leverage on my shoulder blades. So I either grab the edge of my mat and kind of give myself some stability to pull against or push against, or I might just put my hand on the floor and use it in that way. So it's your pose, use it the way you want. We'll take 2 more breaths. Now as I come out of this right arm is what's underneath me, so I'm going to take my right arm up front, and then I'm going to bring the left leg back out. Okay, so now I've got spinal balance here. Hug in through the sides of your waist, reach out between those 2 points. Then we're going to curl in, bring in the knee and elbow together, stretch back out, curl in. You might be able to even bring that knee right to your forehead. We'll curl in and stretch out, and then we're going to do it 1 more time. Good, reach out nice and long. We're going to bring that leg back down. So now we're back in this kind of wide-kneed child's pose shape. We're going to take the left arm, swing it under, or whatever your opposite arm is, and then create that little shoulder stretch in your particular way. Alright, so we're going to take 1 more breath here, and then I'm going to kind of pull this back together. That left arm is going up front, and then my right leg is coming back. So reaching out between those 2 points. And for now, I'm just holding that, kind of curling in a little bit through the sides of the waist. And 1 more breath like that. And then we're going to bring it all together and stretch it out. And bring it together and stretch it out. Bring it together. Stretch it out 1 more time. Together. And out. And then bring it on down. Now, if you want a little child's pose moment, you can certainly take a little child's pose. We're going to do a dolphin pose. Dolphin pose can be a little bit tricky, so we're going to do our best. The core is going to lift and try to hold stable through the shoulder, and then we're going to move a little forward and back. Now, if you've got really tight hamstrings, this is tricky, so you can keep your knees bent quite a bit. So we're going to put the elbows on the floor, about shoulder distance apart. You can lace your fingers together. I like to take the pinky that's on the bottom and just tuck it in so I can press the side of my palm down into the floor. If that's helpful to you, you can also do that. The other alternative is you can put your palms face down. If you've got quite a lot of rotation in your wrists, that might be okay. So then we're going to tuck the toes and send the hips up into the air. So pressing the elbows into the floor and kind of coming back so that the head, if possible, comes through the arms. Keeping the shoulders as best we can that distance apart. We're going to try to get the hips to let us come back a bit. And then we'll float forward until the shoulder is basically over the elbow. So we're lifting through the core so that we've got a nice lift and we're pulling a little bit of weight away from the shoulder, coming forward and then coming back. Theoretically, we look a little bit like we've got a dolphin fin going in and out of the waves. I don't know if that's true or not, but hence the name dolphin. So we float forward and float back. Now, if it's comfortable for you, you can let your feet go back a little farther, do a full plank here, and then come back. Just be mindful of the movement there, coming forward and back. We're gonna do this one more time, trying to get that shoulder position at the end here, so we're getting the head through the arms and some length there in the shoulder. So bringing the knees back down, we can release the shoulders a bit, and then give ourselves a little pendiculating moves, just to kind of rinse out. It's helpful to see how that works on your shoulder. For me, it's very helpful because it asks muscles that might not be completely active to become more active and balance out the action in my shoulder. But notice what's right for you. So we're going to get ourselves to the top of the mat. I'm going to do that through a downward dog. You can also get there without the downward dog. And then if you have a mind, if you are like a hamstring stretch, you can certainly hang out with forward bend for a moment. If that mostly is just you tearing at your butt, maybe don't do that part. Bend your knees a lot more. Come up halfway so your back is nice and level. Bring yourself back. And then come up halfway. Again, treating your body the way it should be treated, not necessarily the way I am treating mine. We're going to come all the way up to standing. Give us a big stretch. I have fairly loose hamstrings, comparatively speaking, and for me the quads are the area that are tighter. So I try to be kind while still trying to create some balance in my world. All right, yogis. So we're going to find a mountain pose. And mountain pose for me has become kind of a metaphor for life. Because what mountain pose asks us to do is to stand still even when it's really uncomfortable to do so, or it feels vulnerable, to just be still in the moment that we're in, which might have some parallels to being willing to be somewhat still in the face of a lot of uncertainty in life right now. So, or just at least to be try to be as stable as possible through that. So my feet are turned forward, which is not normally the way I stand. I usually stand with my toes turned out a little bit. And then I find myself getting taller. So I'm going to grow a little bit through the abdominals, let the shoulders relax. So I'm not trying to hold steady too much. And we don't want to necessarily stick the rib cage out. So we've got this little bit of connection there between the rib and the hip. So there's some structure. And if we ask ourselves to just stand for a moment, what happens? So for me, the urge to fidget is very interesting. And there's also an urge to kind of do something else with my arms, which again is part of the vulnerability of the pose. So we're going to take a nice big breath, reach the arms overhead. Give yourself a stretch if you care to, a little baby back bend. We're going to fold forward, come up halfway. Now we're going to step back into a lunge with the left foot. So we're going to start with the hands on the floor. So if for whatever reason you want a little extra stability and you've got some yoga blocks, you can use those. If you don't have blocks, you can put your hands on the floor. So with the leg in the back here, in a lunge so that my knee is over the ankle, I'm going to play a little bit with this lunge. So I'm going to bend my back knee and bring it towards the floor, straighten it out, and then press back through the heel. Okay. And then I'm going to bring that knee towards the floor, straighten it out, press back through the heel. And then one more time. I'm going to shift my weight a little bit forward so I can bring that knee down a little bit, press back through the heel. Now I'm going to lift up onto the ball of the foot and straighten out the front leg a bit, and come back to the lunge. Lift up a little higher on the ball of the foot, straighten out the front leg a little, and come back to the lunge. And then one more time, lifting up high on the ball of the foot, seeing if my front leg will go any straighter, and then coming back to this lunge. Now, we're gonna come all the way up. So we'll bring the hands off the floor and bring ourselves up into this higher version of the lunge. You can bend your back knee to get your pelvis in place, then see if you can straighten things out a bit. If you like, you can bring the arms up. I'm just pausing for this moment. We've done a bunch of work to get here. So then we're going to take the left hand to the floor. Again, you can use your block. Pick your left leg up off the ground. And we're going to add a little bit of a twist here, taking the right hand up and reaching out through that left leg. I like to take a moment here so that I can feel my right hip really get fired up. Taking one more big breath. Good. Bringing both hands, both hands to the floor and avoiding touching all your plants. You're going to step back into down dog. And then notice if there's a difference between the left and right sides. Coming forward into a plank, you can maintain a full plank. You can maintain a modified plank. We're going to take 3 big breaths here. Or they may not be very big, but we're going to take 3. One more. Lowering down, you can come halfway or all the way. Come into your choice of a back bend. And then we're going to come back to down dog. Pick that left leg up. We're going to bring that knee in. Oh, give it a little curled up shape. Stretch it back. Curl it in. Stretch it back and sink a bit through your right heel if you can. And then we'll step that left leg as far forward as it goes in one step. Put the weight on it. Step your other leg forward. Come up halfway. Let yourself fold. And then we'll come all the way up to standing. Give it a nice big stretch. Now, if you're at the top of your mat, great. And if you're not, you just get there and find a mountain pose. And once we're in that mountain again, toes pointing forward, little connection, some length and relaxed shoulders. Do you feel any differences between the mountain pose you're in now and the one we did at the beginning? Taking a nice big breath. Reaching the arms overhead and give it a stretch. Exhale, folding forward. Inhale, come up halfway. And again, we're going to step back this time with the right foot into the lunge. And finding the lunge so that this knee is stable over the ankle or, maybe a little behind that. I'm going to bend my back knee and then press that heel back towards the back there. Bend the back knee. Press the heel back. One more time. Your knee can get closer to the ground than mine. Again, my quads are super tight, so I only go as far as I should. Pressing that back. Now, for you, the issue might be that, or it might be this thing we're going to do next. So, lifting up onto the ball of the foot, seeing if the front leg will go straighter, and then coming back to the lunge. Lifting up onto the ball of the foot. Again, see, like maybe the front leg doesn't go straight at all. And back to the lunge. And then one more time, we're going to lift up and see where that takes us. Coming back to the lunge, we're going to lift off. Maybe. Maybe I'm going to lift off and draw the pelvis up and find a bit of balance here. And taking a nice big breath. And then we're going to take that right hand again to the floor, taking this right leg in the air and twisting. Reach it out through that leg, take one more breath, and then we'll step back into down dog. I need to check the time because for some reason my clock is again stuck. Monday is clock malfunction day. Okay, good. So, once you're in your down dog, pause for a moment. And again, feel. And then we'll come forward into a plank, pausing with that plank for a few breaths. Again, you can modify it. Just draw the navel in, draw the sides of the waist in. Try to create length down your spine. And then one more breath. And we'll lower all the way to the belly this time. All right. So we're going to do this little Pilates work that's a little bit like locust and a little bit like some hamstring action. So if you want to, you can lace your fingers together behind your back, or just place one palm on top of the other. Or if you're like me and you've got tight shoulders, then bringing your arms beside you is going to work out just fine. So you turn your head to one side. The feet are going to come in towards the hips. We're going to bounce the feet in. 1, 2, 3. Then we'll extend the legs, lift off the floor, bring the head to the center, draw everything towards the midline, and then come down opposite cheek, feet in. 1, 2, 3. Lift, anchor through the center, coming down. 1, 2, 3. It doesn't have to be a high lift. You just want to feel everything active. Opposite side. 1, 2, 3. Lift. Coming down. 1, 2, 3. Lift. Coming down. We're going to do 2 more. 1, 2, 3. Lift. Coming down. 1, 2, 3. Lift. And coming down. 1, 2, 3. So then we're going to extend the legs out. Take your right arm, reach it up, roll onto your right side. So based on what's happening at your house, you might, I need to fiddle around so I don't kick my plants. All right. So hips are stacked on top of hips, shoulders on top of shoulders. We're going to take the hand either in the front to create more stability on your hip. It's kind of a medium amount of stability because you can really monitor the situation happening in your core. Or if you want a little bigger challenge, you can reach the arm either up or you can just bring the hand behind your ear. So that is, you're not going to be able to monitor the stability. You're going to have to hold it. It's a little bit bigger challenge, okay? So we're going to take this top leg and rotate it so the toes point up a little bit. This bone right here that sticks out of the side of the femur, the greater trochanter, we're going to turn that in. So it's going to go in and toward the floor. And this creates an external rotation in the top thigh. Then we're going to lift that leg and circle it. And as we circle the leg, we're trying to hold the torso steady. So you're drawing in through the sides of your waist. Pick that right side of your waist up off the floor a bit. One more circle in that direction. So that's the external rotation. So now we're going to rotate the other direction. So now this greater trochanter lump points up and the knee and the toes point down a bit. And then we're going to circle the leg. And for me, this is a more challenging circle, so I really have to curl in with the abdominals to hold steady. So trying to keep the jiggle out of this whole thing as best I can. 2 more. Last one. All right, so bringing the heels together, we're going to bring the legs behind us. Now we're going to work with the same internal, external rotation. This also works the same muscles we were working in the balancing pose. So we're going to lift the heels up. The knees are going to open. That creates the external rotation. Now I can stop right there, just hold for a beat, and then bring the leg back down. That's the internal rotation. Or if I want to add on, when I get to this external rotation, I can extend the leg all the way, bring the toes back together, and then bring the knees back together. So if your knee is bothered by the extension of the leg, don't do that part. Just do the opening. Okay, so we're going to open, maybe extend, maybe hold, and then bring it back together. This creates a much longer lever, and so this outer hip has to work much harder to hold the hip steady, right? If the hip muscles aren't ready to hold, then the knee is going to take all of the pressure. So being mindful as you go here, yogis. We're going to do this 3 more times. Once we've got the knees together, we're going to re-extend the legs. You're going to take the top leg and bring it forward. Now we can go forward straight. You can bend it and put the foot on the ground. For me, the danger here is that I can accidentally push my hip backwards. So even though I like to rest my foot I try to find that place where my hips are balanced. Makes me use my core a little bit more. Now lift the leg that's on the bottom, so in this case my right leg, lift your side waist up, and then we're gonna pulse this leg up a little higher for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold it there and circle it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Circle the other direction. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Still holding the hips nice and secure. We're going to lift that leg and pulse it again. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now bring that leg down. You can bend the knee of that bottom leg. We're going to take this top leg, and what I may do is hold on to my big toe and extend that leg up. I'm going to try to get use this as an arm release. So for me, this helps. And then I could straighten out my bottom leg once I've got hold here and really engage through the core to hold myself steady. And then I'm going to push on the gas pedal to stretch through my arm. Now, this being said, if you're ripping your hamstrings, for crying out loud, don't hold your leg like that. Hold down a little lower and simply extend through the arm. So we're getting that little bit of release there in the shoulder, as well as this hamstring stretch, and maybe inner thighs as well. Hold steady through your core. We got 2 more breaths. Okay, so I'm going to bend the knee, release that stretch, coming on back. Oh, you can bring yourself onto your back. And while we're at it, we'll work that left glute. So I'm going to put my right shin up on top of my left thigh. I'm going to curl my shoulder blades in a bit so I can really push my upper arms into the floor. Now I like to do robot arms because I have a carrying angle, and when I try to put my arms down, it makes my shoulders come out of alignment. So this works better for me. Some people will be able to put their palms down on the floor just fine. So we're going to take the hips up, extend that leg up, put it back, and lower down, okay? Now if you get a hamstring cramp, and sometimes I do, you'll just let go and shake it out. Here we go. So we're going up, extend, come back, and lower. If you want to leave the extending out, you can just lift up and hold, and then lower, right on. So both of those could work. We're going to do it twice more. Lift, hold, and then lower, or lift, extend, come back, and lower. Good. Stretch out both your legs. Give yourself a little rinse. Now, depending on, if you like, you might be able to take the phone to the other side of your mat and just roll right over. Or if your viewpoint is more stationary, you can just roll yourself 180 degrees and lay on your other side. So we're here, hips on top of hips, shoulders on top of shoulders. Externally rotate that thigh, lift the leg, and then we're going to circle it. And again, we're trying to really maintain this lifting through the bottom abs here and drawing in through the top. So working that transverse abdominis. Pause. We're going to rotate the leg the other way. So again, I want this edge of my greater trochanter to be sticking up. And then I'm going to circle the opposite direction. Hold and steady. I don't have as big a range of motion, so my core wants to help me make a bigger circle. So I'm really drawing in here. So I'm going to bring the heels together, bring them behind me, and again, I'm starting in this internal rotation, move into the external rotation. These muscles, if they're not strong enough, will cause trouble for your knees, so maybe extend, maybe not. Curl it in, open it up, extend. You're going to try to maintain the position of your foot there on the bottom so that that's not really ever moving. And this top leg is doing all the work of this internal and external rotation. Ooh, I like to make my outer hip feel like it's on fire. Hopefully it's working out for you guys too. 3 more. All right, so then we're going to extend the legs, and we'll bring this guy up top. And you decide how you want to put that foot on the ground or leg on the ground. Get your hips nice and stable. Lift that bottom leg. Really draw up through the side of the waist there. We're going to pulse it up. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Making a circle. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Circle in the other direction. 1, 2, 3, 4. Can you feel those deep hip flexors doing part of that work? 5. We're going to come back to the center and lift. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now I'm going to bring that leg down, bend that knee, bring this knee in, see if I can get hold of my big toe. And again, you can hold the heel or the calf or use a strap. The primary thing I'm doing here is I want to get a full extension of my arm. In order for me to do that, I have to go for the toe because I've got longer legs and shorter arms, but you might be able to do that without bothering there, or use a strap instead. So I'm going to push on the gas and really extend through that leg. I'm extending through the other leg, lift through the core, try to hold stable. And again, any pain here is not worth this little bit of extra pose. This pose is referred to as Vishnu's couch pose. If you're familiar with the god Vishnu, but he often is depicted having a nap on a couch made out of snakes. So if it feels like you're on a couch made out of snakes, maybe let go. Take in one more big breath. And then we're gonna let it go, and we'll come back onto our back, and we'll work that left butt cheek, or rather, whichever one we're working on. I think it's the right one, maybe. So left ankle goes up on top of the right thigh. Is that the other side? I think it is. All right, you guys, you just have to work your best. Make sure you get both butt cheeks. So we're gonna lift up. Again, you can just pause there for 2 beats and then come back down, or you can lift the hip, extend through that leg, bring it back, and then come back down. Your choice. Coming up and down. 3 more, coming up. One more to go, or at least I do. And once you're down, we're going to give everything a big stretch. Give yourself a little bit of a release. The little windshield wipers where the feet are really wide feels really nice. And then yogis, we're going to let ourselves relax here. So we're going to curl the shoulders blades down. You can use your blanket underneath your legs, or extend the legs, or leave the legs back in that constructive rest position, because maybe that's the thing that's best for your low back even now. But sometimes for me, if I've done all this work, some of that tension from my low back is gone, and I can just let myself relax with my legs out straight. Whew. So we take a few moments here at the end to just let go, because our nervous system loves us when we do. But if you have to split and go off to work, just leave me a little note in the chat letting me know you were here so I can count. Things I like to do while I'm hanging out here doing nothing is just notice kind of the overall sense of being in my body, and then just pay attention to the breath coming and going. So it turns into a meditation here at the end. yogis, take a moment just to once again notice that your breath is here. And take a breath all the way down to your tiptoes if you can take one that deep. Let go with a big sigh. Wiggle your fingers and toes. Stretch out your hands and feet. Give the wrist and ankles a little movement. And then you can stretch your whole body. Bring your knees in. Give yourself a hug and a back massage one more time before we head out into Monday. When you're ready, you can bring yourself up. I just realized I forgot a boat pose, so if you want to throw one of those in here at the end, you could. Don't want to deny you guys a boat pose. So take a big breath together after your boat pose. Big inhale. Big deep sigh. Namaste, yogis. Thanks for joining me today.